At this year's UN General Assembly, its show up or become obsolete. Nearly 90% of humanitarian need is concentrated in just 20 countries. Here is what they need to hear from world leaders. Most pressing on the agenda is joining forces to halt the current wave of global COVID-19 cases, as the Delta variant in particular poses challenges to global defenses. In a race to defeat variants, the US, UK, and other countries are starting to offer booster shots to their citizens, while less than 2% of people in many of the countries the IRC deems most fragile from a humanitarian perspective have received even a single dose of any vaccine. President Joe Biden made a bold commitment Wednesday to donate an additional 500 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines globally. But scaling up the supply of shots won't solve the problem unless those shots get into the arms of people in need. The climate crisis is second on the docket. Just last month, the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a report on irreversible changes to our climate that UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called a code red for humanity. Yet, national commitments remain too small or non-existent. The world cannot afford to have the US, China, and others point fingers. Top greenhouse gas emitters need to step up in support of both adaptation to the climate crisis and limiting emissions to mitigate it.
Resources must be directed to programs that build climate resilience, preparing communities to confront the impacts of climate change. Needless to say, steps must also be taken to lessen greenhouse gas emissions, prevent environmental degradation, and rebuild biodiversity. Communities need financial support and decision-making power to address their own unique challenges. The true test of the UN's continued relevance is whether it can make a dent in the endemic conflict and violence driving humanitarian need, from Afghanistan to Yemen to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Conflict is the single biggest driver of hunger globally, according to the World Food Programme. Likewise, the World Bank has warned that conflict is responsible for 80% of all humanitarian need. Because of these three crises, progress toward the UN's 2030 Sustainable Development Goals has stalled dramatically. Even before the pandemic, the IRC sounded the alarm that 4 out of 5 fragile and conflict-affected states were off track to meet the SDGs. That risk has only deepened as COVID-19 has fueled further insecurity. Aside from the tragic backsliding in global development gains, this toxic mix of COVID, climate and conflict will make responding to future threats all the more difficult.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe